Frumentalk, oh Frumentalk. It rolls off the tongue like a smooth sidewalk. A little sip of words, a splash of wit. Each phrase is a treasure, every thought's a hit. Frumentalk, Frumentalk. Oh, won't you stay and take a walk through the airwaves? It will spark that jazzy tune of Frumentalk.
Okay, so good evening, y'all, and thank you to be here. So tonight we'll have the first English spoken, entirely English spoken episode of Frumentalk podcast. We'll have Elizaveta, also called Elizaveta Music. She's a singer, she's a musician based in Japan, but I believe she's European, and hi.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome and thank you to be here.
Lovely to see you.
So,
Ma comunque,
mm?
possiamo fare qualche cosa in italiano, perché io parlo italiano.
Sì, ok, sì, perché
Comunque non so, per l'intervista intera è un po' difficile.
sì, volevo un pochino strutturarla anche in inglese per fare la prima puntata un po' internazionale. Sei la seconda ospite internazionale, il primo era un americano che parlava italiano, però possiamo fare un misto se vuoi.
Ok.
Ok, va bene. Allora, la prima domanda che desideravo farti è come mai sei andata a vivere in Giappone?
Come mai? Ho incontrato qualcuno, poi ho sempre voluto andare in Giappone. Poi sono arrivata per fare un corso di lingua
Mhm.
e sono restata, adesso c'ho una famiglia, è successo.
Mm.
Le cose succedono così.
E è più facile fare il tuo mestiere di musicista in Giappone o qui in Europa?
Ah, prima non ero in Europa, ero a Los Angeles. A Los Angeles ho fatto un contratto, cioè sono andata all'università, all'università. Il mio italiano è difficile perché adesso il giapponese è proprio nella testa.
You went to university, ok.
Con la mia figlia parlo russo. Io sono la mia figlia parlo russo, lei mi parla giapponese, io parlo inglese con il mio marito,
Mm.
il mio partner, allora c'è tutto proprio. Ah, comunque ero a Los Angeles.
Mhm.
E poi ci ho fatto un contratto con Universal, ho rilasciato il mio album con Universal e poi ho fatto il mio, come si dice, EP indipendente,
Ok.
Hero.
Independent production.
I did an independent EP and then I had some success with that.
Mhm.
Uh, and then then I went to Japan and so to answer your question, I'm only now starting to actually I've done some work here for sure,
Mm.
but I'm working internationally because I have my own studio,
Mhm.
so I can for example, to give you an example, recently I did a project for a company here in Japan, but then right now I got hired to work on a game
Mhm.
from a company in France. And I just finished, actually, yesterday I saw the final version, which I'm really excited. I just finished scoring a short animated film, which is now gone to festivals. It will premiere at the Animayo Animation Festival
Mhm.
first week of next month. and then do the whole festival run. So that one is out of Los Angeles, but it's in Spanish. So I get to sing in Spanish and in English.
Mm.
Um, so basically, and I almost went to. I'm still waiting to hear if I might be coming to Milan in June. I don't know if that's going to happen yet. So that was also something to do with Dragon Age, with me singing tavern songs for Dragon Age, and they wanted me to perform at some kind of special convention potentially. Then in July, I think I'm going to China, and I just released something in Mandarin Chinese. So it's very, it's very all over the place. So Japan just kind of happens to be the place I'm at, and I'm recording and releasing a couple of albums this year in Japanese. But I'm also doing a lot of work, all over the place at the same time.
So can we say that you're, so to speak, a Japanese artist famous in Japan?
I wouldn't actually say I'm famous in Japan. I mean, I did an album, a duet album, with somebody who is part of a popular band here, and we released it in 2019. His name is Scott Murphy. He is in a Japanese band called Mono Eyes, and he's also part of the band Alistair, and he has worked with Rivers, from Weezer. We actually did a tour, like a 14-city tour of Japan. But honestly, like, I'm just now getting back to it because I had a kind of a difficult few years, health wise, and also there was a death in my family, and in 2024. So like with COVID, everything just kind of became complicated, and I'm kind of now jumping back into action, I think, both here and elsewhere.
So you're Russian born, am I correct?
No,
No?
I'm actually American. I'm American born,
Yeah?
but I grew up, so I was born in New York City
Mm.
because my parents were interpreters for the UN at the time. But then they shortly after they went back to Russia, so I grew up in Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
Then I left Russia when I was about 15. Sono andata in Italia. In Italia ho fatto un anno a Perugia dove ho imparato l'italiano, poi un anno in Svizzera, poi un anno in Praga. E poi sono andata a studiare in America, dove ho fatto la composizione e il canto a Los Angeles.
Quindi vuoi dire di essere, come dire, un army child, giusto?
No, it wasn't. They weren't in the army. But when I went to Europe, I was by myself.
Yeah.
I was more like a gypsy child,
Gypsy child.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, not in a bad way, but
No, no, no. I know.
traveling around and doing my thing.
So Japan is the last place, or you plan to go away another time?
Well, I'm finally feeling like this is home, I guess. My language has gotten better. And my daughter, speaks, this is her first language, But I won't say, I think that I have it in me, to probably go another 2 or 3 places. If anything, vorrei anche tornare in Italia, perché l'Italia era sempre stata il mio primo amore. Anzi, adesso sto per rilasciare una canzone in italiano. Ho sempre detto, io canto in italiano, ma adesso faccio un duetto, sarà un duetto con un tenore che è italiano, che vive qui in Giappone, e lui è molto, anzi lui è famoso qui, perché ha fatto, he's been in a couple of really big Japanese games, you
Mm-hmm.
know, as the singer and the voiceover, and he's even traveled on the tour. I honestly I forgot which game it is. I'm so bad with names, but he's really great, and I'm doing this duet. I have one of my kind of classic songs is called "Snow in Venice," and it's well, it got translated into Italian actually a while back, and then I'm releasing it in Italian and in Spanish. So that's exciting.
So Japanese people love Italian people very much. I know it because I went to Japan many years ago, and you know, here in Italy we have many Japanese tourists,
Uh,
and do you think is, you know, possible for you to maybe, yes, unite, merge Italian and Japanese, you know, cultures, making some art, some music?
well, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. This song is going to be also released in Japanese, and actually, you know what? Well, in the most simple way, the the song itself has a bridge in Italian, which, by the way, doesn't change from song to song. It's actually the bridge in Italian exists in the English version, which was released on Universal as well. But it stays Italian in every in other language versions as well. So, for example, you know, like now when I'm going to release it uh, in Japanese, it's going to also have the Italian bridge, so you can technically say, yes, I'm uniting, you know, Japanese and Italian. On top of that, actually, I have this song which I released, a single though, which I released, which is kind of fun. I really love. This is one of my favorite recent singles, and that one is called Tiramisu. And it's about, you know, traveling the world and, you know, kind of eating dessert, you know. So anyway, you know, I even when I released that song, okay, I saw online completely randomly there was like a tiramisu competition somewhere in Italy, and I wrote them an email like, "Hey, you guys, I have a song about tiramisu," but they like completely ignored me. So I was like, "Fine, you know, I'll just have to circle back to this opportunity." Anyway, so I am releasing this song in Japanese this summer, and you know, so who knows, you know, it will promote the, you know, one of the classic Italian desserts, you know, to the Japanese public. As a matter of fact, I found at the time I made a little video with me eating tiramisu and, you know, kind of. So this time I'll do this similar thing, but like kind of with a local place, you know. So to promote them, you know, I'll just go there and like buy their tiramisu and film it and make it part of the song. So that should be a lot of fun.
And talking of Italian music, do Japanese people know about Sanremo Festival? They watch it or stuff?
I don't know, honestly. Speaking of Sanremo, I haven't like followed it so much in the recent years. But I did find out recently, which was really funny. Okay, so that there's this thing called Sanremo for seniors. Have you heard of that? So basically, it's like, I was like, what does it mean for seniors, you know? And then I looked it up, and it was like basically for like singers over 40 or something. And I'm like, that's not senior. Like, well, what are you doing? You know, come on, you guys, you know? So I was like, so wait a minute. So if I ever sing in Sanremo, I'll be a senior. I was like, wow.
And do you prefer to be known as a musician, you know, for standard music, or you know, nerd music like video games, like you did, or anime, or something like that?
Do you know, I think these days there isn't really a distinction anymore, you know? Maybe there was in the past, but now, mm, at this point, you know, like for example, I do so many things, but I mean, I enjoy doing them all, you know. So it's not like I'm like stretching myself too hard. Like for example, recently, this emerging singer songwriter from South Africa I was introduced to him, and he sent me a song, and I really liked it. And it's I would say like therapeutic folk music. Um, and he's actually like a really well-known preservationist over there. He owns like a very large piece of land that he kind of takes care of. And but then in a recent couple of years, he got into music. He felt called to make music. So, anyways, he sent me this song. It was called "Shining for Love," and I really liked it. And I did like a vocal remix of it. So, for example, now I got approached now to do a couple more things like that. So, for example, I take somebody's song with like existing, already recording and melody and everything that's been recorded, and then I add like kind of background vocals and harmonies, and I do it in a very specific way, which in this case it definitely made the song like gave it extra scope. So for example then I've also worked with DJs, and I'm getting back to that. So for example, right now I'm putting together a top line for I'm recording a top line for one DJ, then I'm sending something else, which the Monster Cat record label identified that they were interested in, because I've worked with some of their artists, like Faint and Pegboard Nerds and Stonebank. So I'm getting back to that as well. So I work with DJs. I just now scored with my collaborator, scored this animation. Now I'm working on this game. So I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I can wear many hats. I just love to write music. Sometimes I'm a performer. For example, I'm back to live streaming. But even live streaming for me is a sort of a way to create, because I do improvisations in the stream, and then I use that as like source material. And I've even released, like last year, I released 2 albums of my improvisations. They're like songs. So all of that goes together. I think these days, you kind of have to be multifaceted if you want to have, well, if you want to work.
And just from the chat users, how do you define your genre?
Well, okay. So if you Google me, which I have, oh my God, I Googled myself.
Me too.
And it does say that I am like a cinematic crossover, with electronic elements, opera performer, which is great. I was like, wow, that sounds impressive. I impressed myself. But honestly, like, so this short animation, it's called Bestias de la Muerte. And I'm going to promote it a little bit more in my streams coming up, and also like on Instagram. It's getting a lot of hype, from like animation channels and stuff. They're really great. It's an amazing team. So uh, that score is very like vocal heavy, and actually I get to do some opera in it, like opera, and it's like electronic, and just I do some like choirs and ethnic vocals. So it definitely fits the Google description. Yeah. But then on top of that, like in the recent 2 years, uh, I have like an Amazon wish list, where I put like all the things that I want for my studio and my work. And so one of my fans got me a ukulele, and I was like, fun. So I learned how to play ukulele because it's actually really easy. Well, relatively easy. And then I started writing all these songs. So now I have a whole album of songs on 4 ukulele, essentially, just very acoustic, and it's very, I wouldn't say folky, but it's his ukulele voice, and so now I have to release that, but that definitely does not fit my Google description, of
Yeah.
operatic crossover electronic, So I just work in many genres, I think if anything, I'm definitely I'm song oriented. For me, the song comes first,
Okay.
And that's something that I'll have to kind of come up with a good definition for that. But essentially, I always had a really hard time, even when I was about to get signed to a record label, and I was talking to Warner Chapel, and and they were all like, "So who are you? Like, what is your genre? And what is your niche?" And I was like, "Yeah, what is my niche? Because I have a jazzy side, and then I have opera. I can sing opera, and then now I sing play ukulele. Then I play piano and just I don't know sound kind of kind of story based, kind of mid range, cute vocals. I don't know. So I had a really hard time with this myself for a really long time. But what I realized recently is probably what happened was, and maybe that's how it is for some artists. I was always a composer first. So for me, my voice, my voice and my artist identity wasn't like the first thing, because most artists, or at least a large part of artists, they kind of write for themselves as artists. Yeah. But I was the opposite. I would just write these songs. I would write all these things, and then I would try to perform them myself, because I was like, okay, I gotta be able to do it. But the funny thing is that even vocally, I didn't mature, until many, many years into the whole process in order to be able to sing my own songs. I'm only now at a place where I can sing pretty much everything I write. But then I also realized recently that, wait a minute, I actually don't have to sing everything that I write. I should just give it to some people. So now I'm also I'm getting into the I probably should have done it a long time ago, but I'm getting into the songwriting part of the business, so to speak. So I'm giving some of my songs to other people, other artists to perform.
And content-wise speaking, what's your concept? What's your concept?
My concept.
Lyrically speaking.
Lyrically speaking, I write about everything. Like I can. If anything, that's something I discovered in my Twitch streams in the last few years, is that I can improvise. I've literally made up songs in my stream about like spreadsheets and pizza and average amount emotional stuff, like nature and yeah, pretty much anything. So I don't really have. I wouldn't say that I have a specific concept. I'm just. I mean, I tend to be. I used to be able to. I used to be driven towards more poetic side of things. But now, after I picked up the ukulele, I also wrote some songs that are actually really funny and kind of rude. So, for example, I'm going to release some songs, and I'm like, oh, I better do it soon, before I jump back into the whole operatic, electronic crossover serious stuff. Because, there's some songs where I am like swearing and using the F word, and they're very not serious. So it keeps changing, and I just keep discovering these parts of myself, which is actually really exciting, because I think that maybe a lot of people, they kind of settle by a certain time, but I just seem to be like finding new things to do, so maybe I'm just ADHD or something. I don't know.
Hearing your story, I thought, I don't know why, two concept albums maybe, but you're telling me that your stuff is various, so it's not based on
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so I'm trying to divide them actually. Yeah, I don't. You're right in the sense that I should put it. There are some things. Well, when I group, okay, so after my streaming, kind of like I spent about 2 years streaming really heavily during COVID times, and the good thing is that we actually recorded all those sessions, and I made literally hundreds of improvisations during that time. And I'm a looping artist. That's something that I haven't mentioned, I guess. So I use a looping pedal, looping equipment, and I layer things and I build them, and make choruses and things like that. So I do that live. And so there are some compositions that are very much like they fall into like atmospheric genre. Then there is some that are more like story based, like little songs. Then there's so when I started making albums, now I'm starting to release them. Some of them will be reworked, some of them I'm going to use them as source material for something else, but some of them I thought pretty much I could just release them as is, because they're kind of moments in time. So yeah, from that perspective, I I put them together in a way that kind of makes sense. But on the other hand, when I think about that, I think it's good for the listeners to be surprised too, because some people are saying that the album form is dead, and maybe they're not wrong, because people now are just listening to singles, and kind of putting their own playlists together. But then I can make my own playlist too. So basically now I think an album is like a playlist. The artist makes a playlist, and then presents it to people. And if people resonate with it, maybe they'll use it as is, or maybe they will reinvent it and make their own playlist of the playlist or something like that. So I think the opportunities are very varied.
We have a question from the guys. So, do you feel more appreciated in USA, Europe, or Japan?
That's a very good question. The bulk of my fandom is still in the US. Um, but now I have some fans in Japan too. I think after this year, like, I have a Japanese album that I've been working on. Once I put it out, I'll be able to kind of expand that. The Japanese fans are very they're definitely different. There is I think that the Japanese fans tend to put artists more like on a pedestal more than, say, American people. But um, that's because there's this concept of, how can I put it, like professional. Okay, so there's a big distinction here between an amateur and professional, which I don't think exists in Europe so much, or US. So, for example, here, if you have debuted, with let's say a record label, like an actual record label, and you are actually making money, with your art, you are now in the professional area, and so people really kind of like, wow, you're a professional. Whereas in the US, nobody cares. Like, wow, fun, yeah, you're a musician, yay. In Europe, I think in Europe people are also really welcoming, in a very particular way, and I think it's well known. I mean, there's no. I mean, I think maybe economically things have been a bit difficult for Europe in the recent years, but overall the history is such that many American artists actually had to go to Europe in order to be recognized and in order to kind of be lifted up. And once they made it kind of bigger in Europe, they went back to the US. Um, and they're like, ta-da, here I am. So um, from that perspective, Europeans are also great. So I think every fan base has something to offer that's special, and you can't really, when people like your music, they just like your music,
And living in Japan, of course, we are, age-wise out of the phenomenon. But what do you think of the idol culture?
well, it definitely has its own it has its own niche. It has existed, it will always exist, and I mean, it has existed in all, by the way, in all cultures, to some degree. Like, I mean, like in let's say in Europe or US, boy bands,
Yeah,
are essentially
not so young.
idols. Yeah. What do I think of it? I don't honestly. I think now these days they have a little bit more flexibility. Fortunately, right? Like, so If you're an artist like starting out, for example, there's somebody I'm thinking of producing right now that I met here in Japan. So if you start out and you kind of follow, it's like, I suppose you build a following, you get a game, then the record label comes to you. You have power to negotiate, and you will, like the problem to me, I don't have a problem with idol culture at all. I mean, I think if it exists, it exists. But I do kind of have a problem with I think how controlled their environment is, and how highly controlled they are by the mechanism of the business. Like for example, at some point I was on tour with someone that I was singing with, and he was dating somebody who was essentially kind of like an idol or whatever. And she couldn't talk about it at all. And they couldn't take any photos. They couldn't, you know what I mean? Because like if it came out that she's dating him or something, that would be like a big scandal or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that kind of and actually, to be honest, like Japan isn't as like hardcore as say South Korea. I from what I understand, the South Korean idols have it much harder because the sort of the Japanese people are very serious about privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of translates, so there is some toxicity online, for sure, but overall there are like these privacy laws, and like and it kind of translates also in how Japanese like record labels operate or have operated, and stuff like that. But like in South Korea, I don't think it's as a lot of like South Korean idols have had to like kind of stream on demand, and be very open to their fandom, and very like kind of expose themselves a lot, um, and that has even like kind of resulted in some very unfortunate things that we have seen happen in the last few years. I think there were some suicides or some suicide attempts, and that came actually from bullying online by the fandom, like some people who were just like, I own you, you know, that kind of thing. So kind of a bit of an unhealthy culture. So I'd say that Japan actually is a little bit better from in my understanding, but I'm not part of that culture so much.
So you don't feel so Japanese as today?
I don't think you can become Japanese, honestly. Like, you know, mm, it's kind of funny you say that, because I went back to Moscow like a couple of years ago, unfortunately, for my mom passing, and I met with like a business contact there, and he was like, "Why, you look Japanese? You're turning Japanese." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But then I think it's just maybe me, because when I was in the US, everybody's telling me I'm very European. Now when I go to Europe, people are just fascinated that I live in Japan, and or I've lived in the US. And here in Japan, obviously people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" So I don't think I am. I'm just a hybrid, just like my music, is a hybrid of many things. I think that I also maybe am a hybrid of a few cultures. So I focus more on the people around me, you know, rather than like maybe the place. I don't know how to explain that.
And as a foreigner, do you feel like welcome?
Again, it depends. There are some Japanese people who are very private, very insular. But there are some people who are very open. Um, I'm actually in the southern part of Japan. I'm in Kyushu. Uh, so people here are actually different than they are in Tokyo. And again, like people in Tokyo are different from people in like I don't know in Kyoto. And that's also this thing about Japan that a funny kind of interesting factoid that I can share. Japan had a pretty long era um, prior to Western contact, where it was just this collection of little kingdoms.
Hmm.
Um, and the interesting thing, but I mean, you could say, oh, but that's how it was, in Europe too. However, here, the peasants and kind of the people on the lower
Yeah.
social of the lower social class, they did not travel.
Mm.
So basically, for a few like 1, 2, 3, I don't know, generations, your family might have just stayed put in the same area without possibility of moving anywhere and transplanting yourself, which has made Japan, to me, like that's also what makes it such a fantastic, interesting country, even though it's so small, because every single prefecture, every
Yeah.
is like a little I mean, not like a little country, but they have their own things. They're very distinctive.
Like American states, maybe.
Yeah, pretty much, but even more so. But like they have these, I don't know, like their special noodle and their
Yeah.
special dessert, and they're very much, and even the character. So basically, all touring musicians is kind of a joke, but all touring musicians who tour Japan know that different cities in Japan have different types of audiences. It's just kind of a known thing.
Hmm.
Like, if you go to Osaka, you perform in Osaka, and you say, Osaka, what's up? How you doing? You're like, yeah,
Mm, yeah.
if you go to like a different city, you're like, hey, what's up, Niigata, what you guys up to, like, yay, so the energy levels,
Hmm.
sort of like the, I don't know, the personality almost, of the audience really varies between the cities, which
It's
is
so Italian.
fascinating.
It's so Italian as a
It
thing.
is, isn't it? Oh, you can say that. Yeah. Okay.
We
And
have
in
our
Italia.
provinces, our cuisine. I'm from Liguria. We have pesto alla genovese, and in Rome they have the carbonara, and they're a particular vernacular, and so do we. So it is very Italian for being in Japan, I'd say.
By the way, I would say that, for an Italian, learning Japanese, or like at least spoken Japanese, is actually not so hard because of the pronunciation.
I started a little bit, but I'm not good in Japanese.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you learn, okay, if you try to learn the written, so it's like the written and, like say kanji and things like that, that's very hard. Yeah, it takes a lot of, but in terms of just pronunciation,
Hmm.
you know, sometimes there's some Japanese words that have like made me laugh because they sound Italian to me. It's like, why does this word sound Italian? So bizarre. Yeah.
Because the construction, the phrasal construction in Japanese is like Latin construction.
Yes,
Is
yes. So, but
reverse.
that's different. So like, yeah, but okay. I don't know if you ever thought of this, but you've seen Star Wars,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
essentially, Yoda,
Yeah.
Yoda's speaking was built on Japanese language.
Yeah.
Like wise you are, or I don't know, blah blah blah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Latin.
yeah.
And coming back to music, do you ever thought to incorporate maybe traditional Japanese elements in your music?
And I have.
Okay.
So in my kind of follow up to my EP Hero, which got me like lots of traction back in like 2014, 2015, and it's still actually like bringing new fans, and that was a song that went viral. There was this video on YouTube called Superman with GoPro, and at the time I was actually on tour in Russia, and somebody came up to me in the morning. We were having coffee, before taking the train, and they're like, "Hey, check out this viral video." And I'm like, that's my song. So that was the remix That was a Pegboard Nerds remix of my song "Hero," which was used for that video, which went viral. It's so up to date, like Then the Monster Cat record label got so they were so happy, so they basically made a remix contest of the remix. So my song "Hero" has like hundreds of remixes on YouTube, and I released like a follow up to that like much later, which was like in 2024 and 2 years ago. And on that album, there is a song there was this version of "Hero" in Japanese, which I'm singing, and I collaborated with a professional koto player,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
koto.
yeah.
So,
Instrument.
as a matter of fact, I'm about to. I mean, it took me a long time, but I actually finally edited that video, and I'm just about to put that video on YouTube. But there's another Japanese artist that I'm collaborating with next month. We're going to do like a fun cover together, like kind of he plays he plays a couple of different things, but he invented his own instrument,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds like a Japanese Japanese one, but it's actually he added some functionality to it so he can play more notes. So we're going to do a cover of a song by King Gnu, the famous Japanese band. So yeah, so I'll be doing more of that, and yeah, so that's actually something I'm looking forward to.
And how do Japanese folk, feel about a foreigner using their music, their culture?
That's never been a problem. That's the Japanese people are not.
Jealous.
No, no. There's even it's kind of like a thing where uh, many foreigners come and like you can rent kimono. So there was an aspect of that. I remember there was kind of a debate online, about like,
Hmm.
oh, if you wear a kimono, and you're a Westerner and yada yada, does it mean you're like appropriating culture or you're
Mm.
disrespecting it? But the Japanese people aren't like that at all. Like if you're doing it respectfully, you're doing it okay. If you're not doing it like Logan Paul, and
Hmm.
going to the forest, as if you heard the scandal a few years ago.
Yeah, the Suicide Forest.
Yeah, or like that other guy who just got jailed in Korea. I forgot his name.
Okay.
Like if you don't do that disrespectfully, in a way that really disturbs people's peace, or if you do it kind of like out of appreciation, then Japanese people really, really like people of other cultures, kind of bringing in Japanese elements,
Hmm.
and also I think because part of it is because Japanese culture itself, mm, like at least pop culture,
Hmm.
is definitely not purist. Like in the sense that if you look at animation, if you look at anime, anime is the ultimate, has always been the ultimate like steampunk, like mix of everything.
Yeah.
They themselves bring in parts of all cultures, like I know European, American, like even in the Japanese language, you have katakana, you have
Hmm.
you have an alphabet, you have an actual spoken and written language that's just made for borrowed words from other languages.
Hmm.
So they themselves have borrowed a lot and have incorporated it into the overall fabric of society. So from that perspective, I wouldn't worry too much. Speaking of that, actually I'm working on a musical
Hmm.
that's been kind of like a long-term project, but it's finally taking shape. So I'm going to be like ready to present parts of it next year, and that actually is based on Japanese history and some fun Japanese things. Yeah.
It's kind of surprising because here in Europe there is a lot of chatting about how Japanese people maybe are or could be somewhat racist, towards the Westerners. And in my travel, I did not experiment that. They were very, thoughtful and very warm people in a way. But we have maybe a wrong idea.
you know, that also exists.
Mm.
And I have to say that, just like in Europe or anywhere else, there's also like there's the left and the right politically.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of tension, in terms of like immigration or this or that, and yes, you do meet people, and they could be like, well, you know, it's do you know in some ways it depends on what you're like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like what kind of energy you bring. But yes, absolutely, there are some people here who are you could say who are racist, just like there are in Italy or in France or pretty much anywhere. I mean, I think it's just, and also I think it's just kind of a natural reaction to what's been happening in the world as populations kind of increase the rate of mixing and kind of bumping into each other. There is going to be more, like, in a strange way, but it's a resistance almost. There are going to be there are going to be people who are like, no, stay away from me. This is my place. This is my culture. And I don't even think you can blame them so much, all the time either. It's just kind of like it happens. It's just something that happens in populations. It happens to people. I think you gotta have to work with that case on case basis.
Mm-hmm.
So as a foreigner, there have been some people that I've met here who I can tell instantly they're not comfortable. More how you say in Japanese, shonai. Like, well, what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna be nice and friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter, is half. So she's half Japanese. But she looks a lot like me. She has light eyes. She has light hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has run into kind of moments where people like kids are like, whoa, who are you? Like you're different. You're different. And but she got through it. And there's but yes, there maybe in some other schools or in some other situations it could cause bullying. Again, it really depends on the situation. It just really there's a lot of elements to that. So no, I wouldn't say that overall there are a lot of racist people, but I wouldn't say there aren't any racist people. Like, there are here, just like they're everywhere. And what do? You just live with that, and you hope that things improve, and people coexist, and become friendly.
So, since I know that you have to stream in 10 minutes,
Yes.
I'd close with our tradition. So, I'll ask you to do a question to me.
Huh?
Our tradition of the podcast is, that you could do a question to me.
Ah, ok. No, io non so dove sei anche.
Liguria.
Ah, ok, ok.
Mm.
E... oh, ma Liguria dov'è?
In Italia. No, Liguria è Italia
Cioè,
del nord-ovest, nord-ovest.
nord-ovest. Ok, ok, ok.
Confina con la
Ma
Toscana, però più
io
sotto.
ero... Io quando vivevo in Italia, io ero a Perugia.
Sì, Umbria.
A Perugia, Umbria, sì. Ma dopo sono tornata e ho viaggiato un po', sono andata a Puglia.
Sì.
Puglia. Avevo degli amici a Bari,
Mhm.
ma anche era una piccola cittadina che si chiamava Monopoli.
Mhm. Sì, conosco.
Mm. Ah. Okay. So what kind of what's your favorite Japanese anime?
Inuyasha.
Oh, okay. So recently, my daughter's been reading the manga like
Mhm.
heavily. She's been reading manga after manga after manga. Okay. Do you have like a favorite Japanese artist?
L'Arc-en-Ciel.
Oh, okay. I should. My partner actually loves. I did a cover of one of their songs. So you know what? I should find that, and send you a copy.
My favorite from them is Driver's High from Great Teacher Onizuka.
Uh, no, I'm not sure which one that is, but the one that I did, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Let me see.
Blurred
Oh,
Eyes,
it's
maybe?
I'll have
Blurred Eyes?
no, Neo Universe.
I don't know it. But,
Okay, but it's a great song. So I did kind of like a slow. It's a fast song, so I did
mhm,
kind of like a slowed down, kind of like a ballad version. So I should, you know what? I'm gonna perform it again
mhm.
because now my Japanese pronunciation is better, and then I'll just post it. I'll post it online. I'll send you a link. How about that?
Okay, I'm expecting it. So, thank you for your time. If you want to come back anytime in this virtual kitchen, you'll be welcome. And thank you. The chat is very happy. Okay, I'll send the jingle. So,
Great. Tell
thank you.
them, tell them all to come visit me in Twitch. In the next
Yeah,
like 10
yeah, yeah, I'll
minutes or
tell
so.
them. Ok, thank you.
All right.
Hi. Ciao,
Ciao.
ciao, ciao. Grazie.
Bye. Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Frumentalk, oh Frumentalk, it rolls off the tongue like a smooth sidewalk. A little sip of words, a splash of wit. Each phrase is a treasure, every thought's a hit. Frumentalk, Frumentalk. Oh, won't you stay and take a walk through the airwaves? It will spark that jazzy tune of Frumentalk.